The meeting is now being recorded.
Great. So we're expecting about 600?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll wait a few moments to get started. I think maybe we'll go ahead because I know we have a lot to go through. Unless there's any objections from my team. Nope. Okay, I'll go ahead and get started. I am Leah Wilson, the Executive Director at the State Bar of California, and I'm really excited to welcome you here today. We're going to cover a lot of material. I think give you an opportunity to ask questions that you have about the admissions process or anything else. And I'm going to kick things off by really providing you with a high-level overview of the State Bar and on some of the initiatives that are underway that I think are most important and perhaps compelling for you as students. So Louisa, could you put up the slide deck, please? So I want to welcome you to your State Bar. This is an organization that you will be a member of, not voluntarily, but hopefully with a lot of pride. And I want to share with you some of the initiatives, again, that we have underway that I think you will find interesting and feel excited about as you look to joining the State Bar. So you can advance the slide. So first up here, you see what our mission is. Our mission is set in statute, and that's fairly unusual for a state bar. We're one of only a handful of states that have a mission outlined in statute. And you can see in the bullet points listed on the bottom there what our top priorities are. And I am going to focus on the three that are highlighted, and other folks on this Zoom with me will touch more in depth on some of these areas, namely admissions, but also on issues that are not highlighted, regulation and discipline, namely. What I do want to point out here is we are unique. We are the only state bar in the country that has a statutory mission that includes advancing access and increasing diversity. And those are really important parts of our work. And I'm, again, going to touch upon them briefly. And now, if you could go forward, Louisa. So first off, in admissions, you are going to hear from other presenters today about some of the nuts and bolts of the admissions process as it exists now. But what I wanted to share with you is that there is currently underway something called the Blue Ribbon Commission on the Future of the Bar Exam. This is a commission that has been established by the Supreme Court of California, and it's exploring these questions that you see on the slide. Should we continue to have a bar exam at all? If we do, should that exam be changed? Should it be include a greater emphasis on skills, less emphasis on memorization? Should the exam be administered remotely, irrespective of a pandemic? Should it be open book? Because of course, the practice of law, as we know, is open book. Should we be moving to adopt the National Conference of Bar Examiners Next Gen exam? Some of you may know that that multi-state day of your exam is developed by the National Conference of Bar Examiners. And that multi-state portion is something that is consistent throughout most testing jurisdictions in the country. The National Conference is putting forward an entirely new exam that many states are adopting, and that is that next gen exam. Some of the benefits are it would enable portability of your license across many states, but it would not be California specific and may not be as innovative as some of the things we could come up with here. The Blue Ribbon Commission on the Future of the Bar Exam is also looking at whether or not we need an exam at all. And if not, would we create a supervised pathway to licensure in California? So this, of course, is a radically different paradigm from the one you're looking at. If it was implemented, it would not be implemented for several years. Some states are moving in this direction, most recently Oregon. And what this would look like here is unclear, but I can tell you that a component of it would be sort of an apprenticeship or supervised practice model, after which folks could be licensed, presumably after completing some type of exam or practical demonstration of competency or knowledge. So these are the types of big questions that the Blue Ribbon Commission on the Future of the Bar Exam is exploring. Their final report is due later this year. Again, not going to impact you and your current pathway that you're on, but certainly the types of issues that we are looking at, and I think you will see changes underway in the upcoming years. You can advance the slide. In terms of increasing access in this portion of our work, I wanted to share with you, one, that this is, as I mentioned, a foundational component of the State Bar's mission. We are charged with increasing access to legal services. What you see here is a data point that we know from a 2019 survey that we conducted of all Californians, where we looked to see what the gap was between those experiencing a civil legal problem and those needing legal help. And what we found is that Californians, regardless of income, received inadequate legal help for their civil legal problems, 85% of those problems. So this tells you that the justice gap, or the gap between the availability and the need for civil legal services, is great. And what are we doing now? What we're doing now is we're distributing a lot of money to legal services organizations. That reference to IOLTA there, I don't know if any of you yet in your legal education have started learning about client trust accounting, but these are your client funds that are held in interest-bearing accounts, and that interest is remitted to the State Bar. And we allocate that interest to legal services organizations annually. And that right now, the funding level is approximately $70 million. So we're allocating a lot of money to legal services organizations. These are organizations serving those Californians that are eligible for free legal services. We also do a great deal to encourage pro bono. And once you become licensed, you'll hear a lot more about that. But certainly this is part of sort of what we do now. And then in the next column, you see regulatory reform. So just like we're looking at reforming entrance to the practice of law through modifications to the bar exam or elimination of the exam altogether, we're exploring regulatory reform. One aspect of this is looking at who is licensed to deliver legal advice. Right now, it's only lawyers, and you are looking to become part of that class. But we are looking at whether or not it's appropriate to create a new class of licensee in California that would be able to give limited legal advice, and that would be a licensed paraprofessional. These folks exist in many states, and you can think of them loosely as you think about a nurse practitioner to a doctor. So someone who is licensed to do some, but not all of what a lawyer does. Also under this regulatory reform banner, We're looking at some of the rules. Again, if you've taken your Rules of Professional Responsibility course yet, you know right now only lawyers can own law firms. That's a rule that we're looking to see whether or not in 2022, 2023, it still makes sense. Given the rampant partnership or potential for partnership between lawyers and other business entities, including tech. So these are the types of questions, again, that your state bar is exploring. No new changes eminently underway, but I would say you could look to see a changed landscape likely within your first 5 years of practice. You can advance the slide. So the last piece I'm going to focus on is our DEI work. And I like to call this work a built-in and not bolted on at the state bar. We do a lot to manifest our commitment to DEI throughout the organization. So we talk the talk we walk the talk as an employer, and we are trying to ensure diversity of the legal profession throughout the pipeline. And if you can advance the slide, Louisa. To that end, one of the things we do is we collect data. And when you are licensed, you will be asked every year, you will not be asked, you will be required to pay a licensing fee to the bar. But as part of that process, we will ask you information about your demographics. And I encourage and implore you to provide all of this information, even though that aspect of the process is voluntary, because it is through the reporting of information, not just about race, sexual orientation, ethnicity, but also about your employment type, your employment sector, that we are able to maintain the very robust data set that we have that allows us to know that today, even now in 2022, our legal profession does not reflect the diversity of the state. So you can see up at the top, the California population, and you can see at the bottom, our licensed attorney population. This is as of 2019. You can advance the slide. So what are we doing about it? There's a couple of different initiatives that we have underway. One has to do with retention in law school. So I don't know if these data points resonate with you and in the schools that you attend. But certainly we know at an aggregate level that Black, Asian, and Latino students are underrepresented in our ABA law schools in California. And we also know that Black and Latino students in particular are twice as likely to drop out of law school than their white counterparts. The State Bar is working with not just the ABA law schools, but also our California accredited and registered law schools to help better understand why this attrition is happening and what schools can do to better support students in keeping them in school so that they can graduate. Another component of our DEI work is in this middle bar here, the Strategies and Stories program. This is a positive mindset intervention that is employed at the time that you begin studying for the bar exam. You will be given the opportunity to sign up for this, I believe, although someone from admissions can correct me, when you register for your bar exam. And I encourage you to sign up, even if you don't see yourself as a member of an underrepresented group. As I'll show you in the next slide, this intervention has proven to be quite successful. But before we get there, I'll just point out that in addition to these initiatives, we've also begun to focus on who is grading the exam and how are they trained and supported to ensure that there are no implicit or explicit biases that are manifesting in the grading process. You can move forward, Louisa. So on to the, before we get to the strategies and stories results, I'll just show you the pass rates. So this is some of the data that we collect. And you can see here pass rates so by race. And you can see that white test takers have the highest pass rate, Black test takers have the lowest pass rate. And this is sort of an issue that is pervasive. We're not the only state, and certainly passage of the bar exam is not the only area of our lives that we see these kind of disparities. If we can move forward. On to the results of the Strategies and Stories program that I mentioned. So we can see that the bar exam Strategies and Stories program has been very effective. For underrepresented test takers of color, we see a statistically significant increase in the pass rate of 16 percentage points. And then for first generation applicants, regardless of race or ethnicity, you see again a significant impact on the pass rate based on participation in the program. You can move forward, although I believe that is my last slide. So I just wanted to give you a few tidbits about what the State Bar is up to, particularly in areas that I don't think our other presenters are going to cover. I'm going to turn it over to Michelle to talk about our lawyer assistance program and look forward to participating in the Q&A a bit later this afternoon. Thank you.
Thanks, Leah. I'm Michelle Harmon. I'm the supervisor of the lawyer assistance program. Next slide, I think, starts talking about what the lawyer assistance program is. So the mission of the program is to support all of you, to support licensed attorneys and formerly licensed attorneys and future licensed attorneys and law students in order to enhance the public protection in maintaining their mental health, and with an eye towards everybody, all attorneys being able to practice law the most competently that they are able to. So next slide, please. So the thing that's really important that I want to make sure that everybody knows about the program is the confidentiality. And our program is confidential as defined by our statute. And that means that no information about anybody joining the LAP or what's talked about in the LAP is shared with any other office in the State Bar or anybody outside of the State Bar without that person's prior written consent. So of course, some people might come into the LAP because they want us later to let the Office of Admissions know that they've been working on whatever issues they have, but we just don't automatically do that. Someone would need to sign a form allowing us to do that. However, a lot of the staff members that you'll be working with are licensed clinicians. So most of our staff are licensed as social workers or marriage and family therapists or psychologists. And so, so we have the same rules as any therapist somebody might see. If you're talking about hurting yourself, hurting other people, child abuse or elder abuse, we need to report that to the appropriate authorities. But otherwise, as you can see here, information is not disclosed as part of a civil proceeding, disciplinary, or public records request. So it really is a very private way to start finding resources, dealing with issues that you might have, and especially dealing with issues that you might be concerned would show up in the moral character process. Next slide, please. So here's what LAP offers. This is the free services that we offer. So as bar applicants and law students, you're eligible for 2 free individual counseling sessions and 2 free career counseling sessions. So those sessions are really popular. The career counselors, we get such good feedback about. It's not a job search service, but they are career counselors who have experience working with people in the legal profession to help figure out how you want to start forming your legal career, what type of area you want to expand your practice into once you start practicing, how to get started. For attorneys who have been practicing and don't like what they're doing, it's a resource to start looking at other things you can do with a law degree that's not practicing law or other areas of law to expand into. So they can help provide some guidance for that. And of course, one-on-one sessions with an individual therapist, such as the therapist, used to say in your area, but now we can do most of them online. And of course, 2 sessions isn't enough to do any intense therapy, but it can help get started on looking at some of the issues that you might need to deal with. And then of course, you'd be able to continue with that therapist on your own if you choose to. And those are separate from the wider lawyer assistance program that you might hear about that involves the support groups. So the orientation and assessment is the beginning of that program. So that's when you meet with one of our staff, one of our licensed clinicians who would do an assessment, ask about your history, of course, substance use if that's an issue, mental health symptoms if that's an issue, and make some recommendations to start getting support and getting in recovery for those issues. So there's no fee to meet with our clinicians, no fee for the recommendations, and then that makes you eligible for 3 free LAP support groups. The LAP support groups are all attorneys and law students, people who are in the program, who meet 1 time a week for an hour and a half in a group setting, and we keep the group small, so around 8 to 10 people, so everybody is able to talk and get to know each other. And those are also led by licensed clinicians. So they're not a therapy group, but they're a support group with clinicians who are able to deal with whatever crises and things that people might have coming up. And that's a really excellent source of support for whatever people are dealing with. And is the feedback that we get is people just find that so reassuring to know that there are other intelligent, competent, wonderful people who are struggling with issues that they are too. Next slide, please. So here's our contact information. I spent most of the time talking about the free things, and I wanted to make sure that everybody knows that the program is available for anybody. You don't have to be having problems with the state bar. You don't have to be having problems with moral character application. But of course, if you would like further information about how we can help with that process and help monitor if somebody wants to demonstrate their ongoing sobriety or for the moral character purposes, we're able to do that too with a little bit longer participation in the program. So our contact information is here, and that's it for me. I'll be around for questions at the end.
Well, thank you, Michelle. So my name is Bridget Grammy, and I'm the Deputy Chief of Programs here at the State Bar. And one of the offices that I work with, in addition to Michelle's office of the LAP, is the Office of Professional Competence. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of an overview of what types of services are available to support you once you are admitted to the bar. So if I can have the next slide. So there's 3 kind of main categories that I wanted to focus on that our office provides from the Office of Professional Competence. The first one is an ethics hotline, and it doesn't mean that you have to be in a crisis to call the hotline. But what it is it's a really great resource for attorneys if you're having a question about, do I need to use a fee agreement for this particular level of services, or can I share fees with somebody else? If you have these kinds of questions as you're coming up in your practice, you can call the ethics hotline, and we have professionals that are able to point you in the right direction to look up the authority that you need. They're not going to tell you what to do, but they'll help you find the answer or find the law that applies to your particular problem. So it's a really great resource to know about. And then on our website, on the State Bar's website, if you go to the attorneys page, there's a section for ethics, and that's how you can access the information about the hotline. We also have a lot of just great resources for you online at that part of the website. So not only do we have the rules of professional conduct, which, as I think Leah mentioned this earlier, you might be learning about the model rules, ethics rules in your professional responsibility classes, but sometimes there are some differences with California. So those rules are available. We have different publications available, and then also continuing education. So you can take your own online classes. You can learn about specific things like client trust accounts, or if you want a more in-depth view of the ethics rules, you can take specific online education is available there for you. We also more recently have started putting together little spotlight videos that what different ethics rules mean, and even if you're studying for professional responsibility right now, it might give you a little extra help. And then finally, the new attorney training and continuing education. So when in your first year of practice, once you're admitted, there's a 10-hour class that you have to take, or you have to take 10 hours of continuing education on very specific topics. And you can access that right through your My State Bar profile. We have a learning management system there, and there's a bunch of different classes, but it includes, law practice management, stress and coping skills, like how to, competency issues, some of the issues that Michelle was raising having to do with the LAP program. There's specific classes designed for first-year attorneys that you take there. So all of that is available on the website and through your state bar profile, but we just wanted to give you a preview of things that are available now that the bar provides. And then also, you know, in the future, in the next few years, we're working on developing self-assessment so that you can go on and take an assessment to make sure that you're up to speed and that you're continuing to be on top of what the ethics rules are, what your obligations are as attorneys to your client, and how to best manage your law practice. So stay tuned for some more information about that. And that's it for me.
So that brings it to me. My name is George Cardona. I'm the Chief Trial Counsel, and we are the office that you want to avoid contact with in the future. If we can go to the next slide. We are basically the enforcement arm of the state bar. And so we receive and review complaints that allege misconduct by California attorneys. Once you're an attorney, you'll be subject to compliance with the rules of professional conduct, as well as with provisions of the State Bar Act, which is codified in the Business and Professions Code. And so we get complaints submitted to us by individuals and or entities. We review those complaints, gather information as necessary, and determine whether to refer those for further investigation. We have to keep the complainants advised about the status of the complaint, and to do this initial review and intake of complaints, we basically have two teams of attorneys who review all the complaints that come in and make those initial decisions. If those decisions are moved forward in the process, they go into investigation, which looks at a more thorough investigation, which can involve interviews. They might reach out to interview the complaining witness. They might reach out to interview the attorney who is being complained about to try and sort out what happened. It may involve more steps as well. So for example, subpoenaing bank records if there's a complaint about how a client trust account has been handled. Subpoenaing court records if there are issues about competent performance or some other violations. So that's all done. Looking again to try and determine whether there has been a violation of a State Bar Act provision or a rule of professional conduct. By statute, we are obligated to notify the attorney who's the subject of the investigation and give them an opportunity to respond. And that's part of what's considered in the investigation. The response to the allegations. Attorneys are required by the State Bar Act to cooperate with investigations and to provide information. And so that's factored in the investigatory stage and in the pre-filing stage to look at, what are the facts? Was there a violation? Is it a violation that would warrant discipline? If we do decide to go forward with filing charges, before we do that, we are also required to give the attorney an opportunity to participate in an early neutral evaluation conference before a State Bar Court judge, the purpose being to have a neutral third party, the State Bar Court judge, hear both sides, assess it, and give recommendations to the sides as to their view of the case, whether it should proceed or whether there should be potentially some kind of resolution. Importantly, by statute and rule, all of our investigations remain confidential from the time we get the complaint until and unless we file a public filing document, a notice of disciplinary charges with the State Bar Court. And our investigation and pretrial side basically has 12 teams of attorneys and investigators who work to do the investigation to try and sort out what happened and whether charges are warranted. If we can go to the next slide. This rather complicated diagram is a chart of how the complaint process goes. I'm not going to go through it all, but essentially what it indicates is that at each stage, at the intake stage, at the investigation stage, we're trying to make decisions based on the facts about what happened, whether there was a violation, and how best to address it, whether it's something that warrants some alternative to discipline. Does someone need assistance? Do they need resources? Is there something that indicates this is unintentional that should be addressed in that way? Or is it intentional misconduct or grossly negligent misconduct that warrants moving it forward for investigation and moving through discipline to file a notice of disciplinary charges and seek actual discipline in the State Bar Court? Actual discipline can take the form of a private reproval, a public reproval, a suspension from the practice of law. potentially being put on probation for some period of time, all the way up to disbarment, which is the harshest sanction that's imposed in state bar court for discipline. So if we can go to the next slide. This will give you a sense of some of the numbers that we get. So for each of the years that's shown here, 2017 through 2020, it shows the number of complaints we've received. As you've seen, we receive anywhere between 12,000 and 13,000 complaints a year. In addition, we can initiate inquiries ourselves, and that number is much lower. We'll also get referrals from the probation arm of the state bar for people who are alleged to have violated conditions imposed in probation and prior disciplines. There are also certain reportable actions that individuals are required to report. And once you become an attorney, you'll be subject to these obligations. So there are requirements, for example, that attorneys self-report to us certain sanctions if those are imposed, if they've been the subject of a criminal charge or conviction, or if they're subject to discipline in another state. All of those are things that attorneys have to report to us, and you can see the numbers there. We also get reports from courts, prosecutors, and other sources. There are certain things that they too are required to report, and you can see those numbers there. The criminal conviction numbers, you might notice a huge increase in 2019 and 2020 in the numbers of criminal convictions. That was the result of a re-fingerprinting of attorneys that led to us learning about a huge number of additional criminal convictions that are working their way through the system. But the bottom number gives you a sense of the total number of discipline cases we handle, anywhere from 16,000 to 19,000 over those 4 years. If we can go to the next slide. In addition to handling discipline against attorneys, we are also tasked with investigating, reviewing and investigating complaints alleging unauthorized practice of law by non-attorneys. Some common areas in which we see this are in immigration and bankruptcy proceedings. We have one dedicated team of attorneys and investigators who handle this, and the remedial actions we can take include sending out cease and desist orders. Those are posted publicly on the State Bar's website so that those can be viewed. And we also make referrals to criminal prosecutorial authorities for potential criminal prosecutions. And at the bottom, I've given you a sense of some of the number of these cases we handle, which, as you see, you can have ranged from 665 to 948 cases over those 4 years. So this is another area in which we do enforcement and impose certain remedial actions. And with that, I think that's the overview of the Office of Chief Trial Counsel, and I will turn it over to admissions.
So good afternoon. My name is Tara Clark. I'm the program manager for moral character. And with me, we have David Lane, our senior attorney, and Audrey Ching, the assistant director. She'll be speaking after moral character. So next slide. Thank you. So as you may know, one of the requirements for admission to practice law in California is a positive moral character determination. It's required by the Business and Professions Code and defined by the admissions rules. So as you can see here, good moral character includes, but is not limited to, qualities of honesty, fairness, candor, trustworthiness, observance of fiduciary responsibility, respect for and obedience to law, respect for the rights of others in the judicial process. We always like to start with bringing up the definition because when you are going through our materials online, which David will be mentioning in a moment, all of these traits are tied into the process themselves. And next slide. So what is the moral character process? Essentially, it's a background check. So we're going to ask for quite a bit of information for you. We do encourage students to apply at least on their 3rd year of law school. The reason being is that it can take a minimum of 6 months to complete. However, if you do have quite a bit in your background, it may take longer. We may eventually offer you abeyance, which contains some terms that we'll ask you to complete before being able to render that positive determination. And so forth. And David, again, we'll talk about that again in a minute. But so it's a good idea to start getting this documentation early on because it is quite a bit of information we ask for. So as you can see on the left-hand side, it's everything from your education history, residence history from the past 8 years, employment, and so on. And one thing to note, hopefully everyone has already registered with the Office of Admissions as an applicant, and Audrey will talk about that again in a moment. But if you are, then you're familiar with our applicant portal. And so with the applicant portal, everything now is essentially through email, it's automated. So when you are going through the moral character process, we do ask for an email address for your references, for your past employers, and so forth. And so we know sometimes that can be a little bit challenging. So again, we do encourage that you start gathering that information earlier. And then if we go to the right-hand side, you'll see more information that we're going to ask about. Have there been filed any complaints against you? Have you been involved in any civil or administrative proceedings, and so on? And if you haven't already taken a look at it, you can go ahead and launch the moral character application in the applicant portal, and you can look through the questions. There's no timing, it's not going to close it out, anything like that for you. So that way, if you want to see exactly what it is you're going to be asked for, you can go through and do that. Otherwise, we do have our instructions online, as well as we have all the forms posted. So for example, if you answer yes to the convictions question, you're required to provide a Form 2. And at the bottom of the form, it lists all of the documents that we're going to ask for. I don't think we're seeing it as much now as everyone is kind of adapting to the new normal, but definitely early pandemic, some of the applicants were experiencing some delays getting documents. So again, if you have anything in your background where you are going to have to get that supplemental information, encourage you to do it now. And then one thing to note as well, if you do try to get, for example, that police report for a matter that's 15 years old, the agency might not have it, you might not have it anymore, and that's okay. You can let us know that you went and you did ask for it by providing a letter from that agency. Typically, they're willing to provide a short letter. It's 1 or 2 sentences stating that it's either been destroyed pursuant to policy or it no longer exists. And that's fine, because it shows us that you've then attempted to get that information in good faith. And so with the moral character process, I'll just briefly go over it. Once you do submit your application itself, we have our team that will review it for the initial completion. So that means they're looking, did you answer each question? Did you provide any forms that you said yes to the answer to? Once we have the minimum information and documentation necessary, from there, it'll either be cleared at the pre-processing level, so our first reviewers, or it'll come up to our team of investigators in San Francisco. And from there, they may be able to clear your application based on what we have, or they may ask for more information from you or from a third party. If you get the email that tells you your case has been assigned to an investigator, it's a normal part of the process. It's not a cause for concern. It's just something needs to be looked into a little bit further on our team. And so David will continue to talk about the process a little bit later. So that's just the basic general overview for you. And so again, the main takeaways, please, we encourage you to apply early, start gathering the information now. And then if you do have any questions for us, you are able to submit questions through the applicant portal, or we always have someone on our team assigned as the moral character person of the day there to answer any general questions for you. Okay, and next slide.
Okay, hello everybody. I am David Lane. As Tara said, I am the attorney for the moral character unit at the State Bar. And first, I want to just thank everyone for being here. I know we're throwing a lot of information at you, and you already have a lot going on with law school, and it can be a little overwhelming. And rest assured, you don't have to memorize every fact we're giving to you today. Hopefully, we're giving you some information that's useful. It'll start to percolate in your brain. And like Tara said, when you have further questions, whether it's about moral character or some other aspect of State Bar licensure, you can always reach out to the State Bar and we'll help you out. Sort of related, this slide shows some of the resources that are available on the State Bar's website with respect to the moral character application. Tara described a lot of the information that we ask you to provide and that we collect. On the website, if you frankly go to the link, or if you just Google State Bar of California moral character, the first site there will be the moral character page. And if you go to that page, it will show what you're looking at now. It will describe the moral character process to some degree, sort of like Tara did, and describe for you why the process is there. And there are several documents linked on that page. Some of those documents are going to show you what the law is that governs the moral character process, from the statutory law to the California Supreme Court, state bar rules, etc. There will be some assistance for you there with respect to how procedurally to file the application. On the right there, there are going to be links on the page there that describe, if you go to those documents, they're going to describe for you in broad categories what the moral characteristics are that we look for when we're processing moral character application. This eventually all comes from the California Supreme Court. And what we're looking for are things that Tara described initially with the definition, honesty, candor, things of that nature. So if you go check out these documents, what they are going to provide you with are examples of acts of misconduct that are in conflict with those moral characteristics, and how we approach those acts of misconduct should they have occurred in your background and they show up on your application. This can give you some peace of mind often because you may be concerned about things that are going to show up on your application. And here you can find some idea of how we're going to deal with it and hopefully provide you some reassurance and help you get through the process, which is usually what happens. Next slide. Okay, so Tara described the process a bit and how, you essentially submit your application and it goes up a ladder, right? It can get cleared initially if there's really nothing there that grabs our attention. If there are any sort of issues there, it might get assigned to an investigator. It gets investigator, it can go from there to a supervisor on up the chain. Ultimately, if we don't think we have sufficient information based on the entire process to give you a positive moral character determination, we will invite you to an informal conference. That's essentially a sit-down discussion with myself, Tara, and one of the two supervisors of the moral character investigators. And we basically sit down with the applicant, we have a discussion about whatever issue came up in the application that caused concern, and hopefully we resolve the issue. When the conference is over, we have several options. One is to grant you a positive moral character determination. If that occurs, that's good for 3 years. That means, for example, if you have some trouble meeting some of the other requirements for licensure, like passing the bar exam, your moral character determination at least will be good for 3 years while you try to do those other things. You can always get an extension of that time period also. We can re-refer the application for further investigation. If something comes up during the informal conference, maybe an issue that we did not anticipate, or an issue that we anticipated resolving doesn't get resolved, we could send the matter back to the moral character investigator and ask them to take a look at it. The third option there is abeyance. That's essentially like hitting the pause button. That's when we don't think we quite have enough to grant you a positive determination, but we don't want to deny you a positive determination. And so often we'll ask you to do certain terms, perhaps take some continuing legal education courses, or get evaluated by the lawyer assistance program that Michelle spoke about earlier. Something of that nature. You complete those terms successfully, come back to us, and if all goes well, then you get granted a positive determination. The fourth option is to deny you a positive determination. If that happens, typically that's for 2 years. So it's not over. If you do get denied, you have 2 years to demonstrate your rehabilitated moral character and hopefully come back, reapply in 2 years, and then get through the process. if you do get a negative determination, you can appeal that determination that's made by State Bar staff, us. You can appeal that to the Committee of Bar Examiners for an administrative review. They will review the entire record. And in fact, you can even submit new information to them at that point. And they will make a de novo decision with respect to your application. If they deny you a positive determination, you can take that decision and appeal it into State Bar Court, and then ultimately all the way up to the California Supreme Court. And I believe that is it for me. I'm going to stop talking, I think, so we can get to Q&A.
Me first.
But first, Audrey.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you everyone again for attending. It's wonderful to be here with you. And like David said, this is just the start of the conversation. There'll be many opportunities for you to ask questions, not only today, but I will show you in your applicant portal how to ask us questions as well. So I'm going to go over registering as a law student, your resources and responsibilities, and then a little bit on our State Bar exams. So registering as a law student. So you're actually supposed to register within the first 90 days of law study. You should also be updating your contact information as needed, especially when you graduate. If you are no longer going to be using that law school email address, if they don't have a legacy way for you to access that, make sure that we always have your preferred contact information, or else important information we send you may not get to you. Also, if you have a name change, there's just a lot of reasons why you might want to check to make sure that all your preferred contact information with us is correct. Would also be great if you could add State Bar email to your safe senders list, calbar.ca.gov. And once you register as a law student, and you need to go back into the applicant portal, if you have forgotten your password, please do not create a new account. The best way to, and I'll show you in a sec. Actually, if you go to the next slide, I can show you the best way to do that. The next slide. So the best way to do that, I have it kind of darker there on the screen, is to just click on forget your password. So don't create a new account. Because then you get duplicate accounts. Just click on forgot your password. Very standard, just like you might forget your password to a lot of things, and get a new password. If somehow you get locked out or you are unable to use that link, then you should call us and I'll go over different ways to contact us besides the applicant portal. Just better not to create a whole new profile, because then you may not get the information you really need if you have multiple accounts. Next slide. So registering as a law student, why register now? If you haven't done it yet, it is, again, part of the State Bar Act. You are supposed to register within 90 days of law study. And it's also really great because then you'll be in the applicant portal, you'll get familiar with the whole system, kind of your first step on this pathway to licensure. Like Tara said, you want to set some reminders for yourself. Don't be any later than the beginning of your last year of law school to start applying for moral character, for example. Other great reasons to register now and get familiar with the applicant portal is because all your questions and answers will be in one place. It'll just be there accessible to you whenever you go into the portal. You can look at your old questions and your old answers, and you can submit new ones when you need to. You'll also make sure that your contact information is current. You can participate in optional state bar initiatives. We talked about the bar exam, strategies and stories, that positive mindset intervention program we have for the bar exam. And then the MPRE, when you take the MPRE, if you have your portal all set up, your score will be sent to the State Bar and kind of post automatically in the portal. So that's a great benefit to you as well. Again, make sure to add us to your safe senders list so everything we send you will get to your inbox properly. Next slide. So sort of your resources and responsibility, all the applications, not just obviously we start with that registration application, but all the applications you'll need throughout your time here with us in the Office of Admissions will be on the portal. Instructions will be on the portal as well. There's also every time we have a new application open for any of our exams, all the deadlines are there, the different deadlines when you need to apply by, when late fees are, even things like when you might need to download files for the exam to be able to take it on a laptop. Everything's on the web page. There are frequently asked questions on the web page as well. So really getting familiar with all the posted rules, the FAQs, and sort of the timelines that are on the website. And then there's the instructions on the portal as well when you start any of our applications. Always a good rule of thumb to apply early enough in any kind of process to ask questions to make sure you have all the information that you need. And then posted on the webpage will be all the specifications you'll need for your computer if you're taking the exam on your laptop, or for the first year law students exam, it will be remote again this year. So I said I'd tell you how to reach out to us, and I will. Obviously, a great way will be a general request through your applicant portal. Of course, if you can answer the question for yourself by looking at our website, that's great. But if you have trouble accessing your applicant portal, you can always send an email to admissions@calbar.ca.gov. And that will go to our staff here. You can call 888-800-3400. That's our call center staff. It's staff 8 to 5 every day, but 8 to 4 on Wednesdays. And you can always make an appointment to visit us at the office if you want to have a face-to-face conversation and talk through issues that you're having. So just a couple of screenshots in case you have not been to the portal yet. This is sort of how the welcome page looks. Actually, now on this front homepage, we have an area where you can click to see what the definition of every kind of application status means. What does it mean when you're in verified? What does it mean when you are in drafted? And the most important thing is submitted. Don't forget to always click submit in all your applications so they will actually be sent to us in submitted form. So this is what it looks like. And then if you click on requests, this is one great way. I've kind of graded out on the top there. You click on requests, it brings up that general request, and that's where you can ask us whatever questions you're having. And that's a really great way to reach us. The fastest way to reach us in the Office of Admissions is submit that general request. We have a goal to get back to all general requests in 48 hours. So please don't submit one if you haven't heard from us in 24 hours, because then you'll have multiple of the same question. But is our goal to get back to everyone within 48 hours when they submit those general requests. And this is sort of what it looks like once you have general requests, once you have applications. If you go to that All tab, you can see that history that's stored there for you of everything that you've sort of done in your history with us, questions that you've asked, things that are pending, and you see that status there, that column, things that are approved, things that we've answered, so we've closed that question out. Or if you see drafted or verified, you might want to check on your own end if you have not yet hit the submit button on one of your applications. And these are the exams that we administer through the Office of Admissions, that first year law students exam. Again, it's going to be administered remotely again this June. You can read through the rules of the exam online and see how it's graded as well. And then the California bar exam, you can register again for that positive mindset intervention, the bar exam strategies and stories program in the application while you're applying, or through the emails we send with unique links to you to register for that program. I've put the note at the bottom there again to make sure you click submit on your applications and make sure you have your payment in. That's a lot of frequently asked questions there is you have left an application maybe in verified status instead of going through the payment screen and hitting submit. Thanks, Louisa, for doubling back. So here again are all the different contacts for the different areas that we've covered today. Like I said, this is just the beginning of the conversation. There's lots of opportunity to talk through your questions and concerns, how to get in contact with LAP, the Office of Chief Trial Counsel, moral character. Again, we have that moral character person of the day. So someone's always on rotation to answer the phone, and then how to reach out to admissions beyond the general request, which I think is the best way through your applicant portal to reach us. And I think we've got 5 extra minutes in our question and answer time now. So good job, everyone, for being so timely.
Okay. I see 2 hands raised. Carol Medina. You have your mic enabled and you should be able to ask your question. As soon as you are able to unmute your mic, you should be able to ask your question.
I'm sorry, it was an accident. I didn't need to ask the question yet.
Okay. Next, we have Octavie Ramsey. Octavie Ramsey, you should be able to ask your question as soon as you unmute yourself. Okay. We can move on to Alexandria Bell. Alexandria Bell, as soon as you unmute yourself, you should be able to ask your question.
Okay, hi. Can you hear me okay? Oh, okay, I wasn't sure. Hi, my name is Alexandria. I have 2 questions. I think your presentation was very, it was just well done. Thank you for all of the information. I'm currently enrolled in a accredited school by, CBE, and I finished my first year. And so the question that I have is, what if someone like myself decides to transfer to a college or a law school that's registered? So right now I have exempted myself from taking the first year law students exam, and just, for financial reasons, some of the registered schools are a little bit more affordable. Is there any provisions that, prohibit someone like that? And if so, what are the requirements to do that? Because I guess I just don't want to get to the point where I take the bar and then be told, oh, wait, you're in a registered school. We don't have your baby bar exams on record. How does that work? Can someone speak to that?
Sure, I'd be happy to take that one. Ms. Bell, we would encourage you to contact the Office of Eligibility, where you can confirm whether or not you've yet established your exemption for the first year, and we can talk about the specifics of your individual case. There have been individuals who have transferred from accredited law schools to registered law schools, and we can talk about the full details of your circumstance offline.
Oh, okay. Okay, so it's an individual tailor response, not general.
Well, no, it's just more making sure that you have truly met the requirements to exempt yourself from the first year exam, and we'll help you to take a look at your actual study and be sure that that's true in your case. The rules would be the same for everyone, and we can give you that assurance that you're seeking by reviewing your transcript.
Okay. Okay, so basically fill out one of the evaluation forms, is that right? And with the transcript, and you can do it that way?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. And then my next question and last question is, I like the way that the bar is moving to evaluate other, thinking outside of the box, non-traditional ways to practice, so that's great. With your line of thinking and planning, has there been any thought into possibly allowing paralegal studies to qualify, as law school credit? I mean, a lot of times especially ABA accredited paralegal programs, you cover the same thing, civil litigation. There's a lot of same classes. Has there been any thought to either, have those type be, able to transfer over at some point?
I'll answer that and just say that for the paraprofessional program that I mentioned, that the bar is currently contemplating, being a licensed paralegal is one of the eligibility pathways for the licensed paraprofessional licensure. So that means that the education and experience that one gained as a licensed paralegal would go towards the licensing requirements for the paraprofessional. So that is something that we're considering now.
All right. Thank you for your answers.
Next, we have Chun-Li Chai. I apologize if I've mispronounced your name. You now are able to speak.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, thank you for taking my turn for questions. So I just recently graduated from law school, and I was applying for the bar exam for the February. And I think like a week before, I think the deadline for I think eligibility verification, I received an email from you guys saying that you guys couldn't verify my eligibility. But when I contacted my school, they said they sent it in. I eventually didn't sit for the exam because I withdrew, but then I'm planning to sit for the July. So my question comes again saying that if I'm worried that what if like I apply and then the same thing happens, you guys couldn't verify my eligibility and I end up having to withdraw again. So how do you guys, I guess, streamline or make it smoothly in terms of verifying the eligibility without like, I guess it's pretty nerve-wracking it is to have to sit for the bar and then have to worry about not getting my admission tickets.
I think that sounds like a pretty individual issue that maybe, I don't know if you have already, but we could review this sort of on a case by case with you. If you submit a general request, it's early enough in the time period for the exam, so we can figure out what was missing and work with you in your law school.
Actually, I submitted an email to you guys twice, and I was like more than 3 weeks ago, and I received no response.
Well, I will look into that right now and see where that is in our response queue.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be great, because then I haven't applied for the July one, because then I'm still thinking like how do I get this eligibility, I guess, verified without having to go through the same issue again.
I see. Okay, so you haven't applied yet. Okay, I will look for your general request and make sure it gets responded to.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you very much.
And I should have mentioned at the outset that this is not the format for any of us to address sort of the details of anyone's particular situation. So I failed to mention that, but we can and will follow up. So for this caller, I just want to make sure we have your name. Is it what is listed on the Zoom screen? CHHUNLYCHY?
Yes,
okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Next, we have Ron Fraser. Ron Fraser, your mic has been enabled.
Yes, I was just curious about in the moral characters section. You guys mentioned, it was something mentioned about indebtedness. Is that about consumer debt, or what type of debt is that? Or am I confused?
No, thank you. We appreciate the question. We ask about indebtedness on the moral character application. What we're concerned with, though, is not indebtedness per se. It's that you're dealing with the debt in some manner. A lot of people have debts. A lot of attorneys have debts. Student loan debt, for example. That we understand that doesn't reflect poorly on your moral character. That's not relevant to the moral character process. What might be relevant is if you're letting the collection agency envelopes stack up on the kitchen table and you're not addressing it. So whether it's consumer debt, student loan debt, any sort of debt, we just want to know that you're dealing with it.
So basically, you got to have good credit.
No, you don't have to have good credit. You could have bad credit because you have bad credit history, but now you're dealing with everything. You're on several payment plans with several different collections agencies. And as far as your moral character goes, that's what we want to see, even if your credit score hasn't started to bounce back yet.
And I would suggest that you take a look at the moral character guidelines posted on our website. That breaks it down a bit by topic and how we may handle it.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we have Kaisha Holmes. Your mic has been enabled. You should be able to speak as soon as you mute yourself.
So I heard you guys say that the moral fitness process needs to start no later than probably the 3rd year of law school. But my question is, when is the earliest you can start the process?
The only requirement to be able to submit it is that you're already registered with us as an applicant. So the process that Audrey described. And you do want to keep in mind, if you're doing it really early on in your law school career, you may have to submit that extension application before you're admitted. But the extension application is about half the fee, and you are able to just tell us what's happened since the last application. You don't have to rehash your whole history.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we have, and I apologize in advance if I mispronounce this, Olumakinde Ayula. You should be joining as a panelist because you do not have the latest version of Zoom to be able to speak.
Okay, I had a question about the moral character evaluation application, and I believe you had said it takes up to 6 months for it to be complete once you submit it. So I'm graduating this May, but I haven't submitted it yet. So the question I had was, if I went ahead and submitted it, are you still able to apply to sit for the bar? And are you also able to actually take the bar while you're waiting for the application to be completed?
Yes, so there are 2 different application processes. You would just have to have the positive determination and the passing score to be admitted.
So essentially, yes is the answer. You could simultaneously put all those applications in at the same time.
Yep, you can put them in any order and at the same time.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Next, we have Matthew Hobson. Your mic has been enabled and you should be able to speak, Matthew.
Good afternoon. And let me first say thank you for awesome presentation today. My question deals in general with the provisionally licensed attorneys who have not had an opportunity to take the bar exam. I was wondering whether anyone on the panel had any idea what will be our status. Will we be required to sit for the bar, or is there some other type of working in progress as far as our licensing is concerned? Thank you.
So if you were provisionally licensed because you were a 2020 graduate, so under the original program, there was an expanded pathway program that was eligible to a different subset. But if you were provisionally licensed because you were a 2020 law school graduate, then you will have to take the bar.
Thank you.
Next, we have Elena Bertucci. Your mic has been enabled. You should be able to speak as soon as you unmute yourself.
Hello, thank you for all the information. Forgive my English, please. I am a foreign attorney applicant and I come from Italy. And passing the bar exam because of the language is a huge challenge for me. And that's why I'm kind of waiting a little bit before fighting for the moral character determination, because it's a very demanding process. And I would like to feel more confident of being able to pass the bar exam before starting that process. I am wondering if am I missing some deadline? Can I wait a little bit before? I mean, I know that this might delay my admission to practice the law in the future if I pass the bar exam before and then I fight for the moral character determination, but that will be okay for me. I'm just worried that I don't want to, miss any deadline or making a conduct that is not okay, even waiting for it.
So the short answer is no. You're not going to miss a deadline. You're permitted to submit your moral character application when you want. And this is assuming you're just asking about that. This is presuming you're not practicing law before you get licensed or anything of that nature. You can submit your application when you want to.
Okay. Thank you.
Next, we have Kim Manat. Your mic has been enabled and you should be able to speak.
Hi, yes, I think I maybe just answered my own question, but I had applied for registration online and, you know, I was told that it sometimes takes a while, but I got it back immediately saying that it is approved. So am I okay in that aspect? And then secondly, I think, you know, I just learned that it was open registration for the first year law exam. And I guess I'm not sure what documents are needed in order to register for that, or if it's going to take me a while to get that done, and if that's going to slow up my process at this point in the game.
I could speak to I mean, I could say that the registration process is typically as you described it. The approval is upon you submitting the application. So that I can say. What was the second part of the question?
My second part of the question was, you know, as far as registering, applying for the first year law exam. I didn't know if it was just essentially just as easy as the registration and that you just pay the fees and then you're good, or is there some additional process as far as documents and that type of thing that is needed?
I'm afraid that's outside my bailiwick. I will.
Okay.
This is your first time applying for the first year law students exam. It's there, you know, if you're registered as a law student, you can start the application on the portal the way I kind of talked about earlier. If you have questions, feel free to reach out with us through a general request. And one of the most important things is to make sure you pay and submit the application.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Next, we have Calvin Mazlumian. Your mic has been enabled. You should be able to speak.
Yes, I was just trying to figure out if the lawyer assistance program is only for the current bar member lawyers, or is it also for law school students? So it was not that clear as far as who is really eligible to access that.
It is for law school students also. California law students, bar applicants. So even if you have finished law school but are in the process of applying for the bar, current attorneys, former attorneys, suspended, disbarred attorneys, all are eligible.
Wonderful. Thank you.
It appears that Kaisha Holmes may want to ask another question, so I will enable our mic. Kaisha, you should be able to speak.
Yeah, so my last question is, are you required to finish the full course of study before taking the bar exam? Can you hear me?
Yeah, admissions, you're not going to answer? I think the answer is yes.
Sorry, I think Natalie unmuted first. Sorry, Natalie, go ahead.
Sure, that's fine. I'm happy to do that. In most cases, the way that you'll satisfy the legal education requirement is, in fact, to receive your JD and fully complete the course. There is a limited circumstance under which you may qualify under the 4-year rule, completing 4 years of study if you have been studying for at least that amount of time. The specifics of that would be confirmed through the eligibility department, but in nearly all of the cases, you would satisfy by fully completing your JD requirements.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Next, we have Florence White. Your mic has been enabled. You should be able to speak.
Thank you. Thank you for delivering the statistics on the test rates and those that are passing in the diversity inclusion program that you're implementing. That was valuable to me. I am in an online program going into my second year, going into my third, and I'm retaking the first year law exam this coming June. I understand that there was 4 times that we could take the exam that was posted latter part of last year. I haven't heard anything about that. I'm still operating under the school's advice of it only being three times that you could take the exam. And my second question, I'm going to go back and mention the diversity issue. Is there any, I guess, the decisions being made about applicants taking the exam, the bar exam, and the different ways that they're considering the exam to be proctored? For instance, open book. Because my program is online and I am starting a career at a later age in life, so memorization, the root memory is just not there. So I'm working extremely hard and running business. So my competition up against someone that just came out of college, or just, brain is fresh and mine is not so much. There is a disparity there in terms of the exposure that someone that gets their education seat time from Harvard versus going to an online program and working a full-time job. So is there any information about when they will make a decision about changing those traditional ways of testing that would really speak to getting more African Americans or people of color into the law profession? Because I know there are many different things, and I speak to many other lawyers of color that they, or people of color that are business professionals that would like to enter into law, but just changing your career at a later time in life is just, you're up against such competition, especially if you're not going to Harvard or some of your Ivy League universities. So can you speak about the projected time window that may change? Are we talking 2 to 3, 5 years from now? What does that look like? Thank you.
Hi, so I'll take your first question, which is regarding the first-year law students exam. When the exam was brought online due to the circumstances of the pandemic and a very short circumstance, there was a temporary delay in which those students taking the exam at that time could have 4 opportunities to take and pass the exam. But that was a very limited circumstance, and it has returned to the standard 3. It's great that you're contacting your law school administration. All of the schools have been briefed carefully about how many opportunities are available to each student. And I would encourage you to keep that good, close communication.
And for the second part of your question, I will say, you shouldn't hold your breath. I guess what I would say. I think as I mentioned, the Blue Ribbon Commission on the bar exam is slated to provide its recommendations to the bar and the Supreme Court at the end of this year. Changes of the type that are contemplated, be it a new California exam, be it transitioning to a whole new modality like open book, be it eliminating an exam requirement. We are required to give schools, I believe it's 3 years, maybe someone from admissions can correct me, but a notice period in advance of such a change prior to implementing it. And then it will take us some time to develop the new processes. So I think it's safe to say we're a good 5 years out from the types of changes that I mentioned.
So may I comment?
Absolutely.
Just for clarification. So, okay, if I was sent during those special circumstances, during that window where we were offered the 4 opportunities, so does that go away? I understand now that we're not in the pandemic. So, but if we were offered that during the pandemic when we began taking the class or taking the test, does that automatically go away? Did I lose that opportunity? And I'm now taking my, this would be because I didn't pass on the 2nd. And so this would be my 3rd. So then I've lost that window for the 4th just because we've gone back to normal circumstances.
Well, something that might be helpful is just to distinguish between the number of opportunities to take the exam versus the number of times that you have taken the exam. So it would have applied to the 4 opportunities to take the exam starting in June 2020. And so those 4 opportunities have elapsed. But we could also continue the conversation offline to make sure that you understand the requirements that you'll need to satisfy to go forward. And Ms. White, is your name correct on your Zoom if we were to follow up with you, Ms. White?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next, we have Gil Mata. Your microphone has been enabled. You should be able to speak.
Yes. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for this opportunity to ask a question. My question is, right now, as the pandemic is sort of petering out, I was wondering if the bar would, in the near future, administer the test, the California bar exam test, continue to be online, or will there be like a hybrid where it's optional for you to go on site or at home?
Right now, the bar exam, well, the one we just administered in February was in person, and the upcoming July bar exam will be in person as well. The National Conference of Bar Examiners gives this material for the multiple choice portion of the exam, and their requirements are to have an in-person exam.
Thank you so much.
Next, we have Crystal Dean. Your mic has been enabled. You should be able to speak.
Hi, I was wondering if the State Bar is going to be considering allowing students in the law office study program to participate in the certified law student program so they can appear in court and assist clients under their mentor's supervision.
Does anyone from admissions want to take that? I believe that is a rule change that is either underway now or certainly is going to be underway.
So law office study participating in the practical training of law students, I think.
Yes.
And yes, that is something that's come up and is under review, but it would require a rule change.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we have Natasha Davis. Your mic has been enabled. You should be able to speak.
Yes, hi, good afternoon. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for this information. There has been a conversation floating around with my fellow students, probably about 50 of us, and we're under the impression that we are not required to take a first year law exam anymore. Something about that has been done away with. I personally have not been able to find any information to prove that. And I just wanted to hear a little bit about that. When are we required? Do we have to fill out the same application, the moral application? Can you speak to that or point me to where I can find that information?
So at this time, there definitely still is a requirement to take the first year law students examination or to establish an exemption. Exemption is usually established because you've completed a full year at an accredited law school or an ABA approved law school, and you've been advanced to the second year. If you have any questions about your specific circumstance, then we would encourage you to contact the Office of Eligibility and we can confirm for you there.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Very welcome.
I do not see any other hands raised at the moment. Oh, we have two more. Alexandria Bell has another question. Your mic has been enabled.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I just have one quick question based on the last question that you just answered, which was really kind of a tag on from my original question. It's an administrative question. When we're getting our previous law school studies evaluated, do you take, now you could get transcripts, just e-transcripts from the clearinghouse? Or do you just kind of do it the old school way and you have to have a hard copy, sealed, signed, all of that? I mean, do you take electronic from the clearinghouse directly?
Not Not at this time. We do require the official copy in the envelope. That is something we're looking for into for the future. But at this time, please do plan to have the official paper copy.
Okay, and does it have to come directly from the school, or can it come from the student but it's sealed?
It must be sealed, but it is a better practice to have it come from the school if possible. There sometimes are questions when they come from the students, so you will have the fastest processing if it can come from the school.
Okay, and one other quick question on that. When you're evaluating the law school study, you're just looking for transcripts from the law school, not like your bachelor's, master's, anything else irrelevant, or is that relevant?
It would be best to confirm with eligibility, so we make sure that we're evaluating for the question that you have, and we'd be happy to confirm that with you up front.
Yeah, I would. Okay.
If it's establishing the exemption, it's going to be your law study.
Right. Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next, we have Melanie Maxfield. Your mic has been enabled. You should be able to speak.
Hi, thank you. I have a specific question about my application status, but I'm signed up to take the July bar, and I took the MPRE last November, but the status says requirement not satisfied. So I know it's a very specific to me question, but I'm wondering who I would follow up with in order to just make sure that that score has transferred over from NCBE.
So if you submit the request through your applicant portal, then the staff member assigned can take a look into that for you and she'll contact you.
Okay, so there's like just a contact through the applicant portal that we can use.
I would just put in a general request with this, and you can go ahead, say you attended State Bar Day, and we're told to put in a general request about this missing MPRE score and how to resolve it.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay, I see we have a couple more hands. It's almost 1:30, so let's just take Mag, and then we will close out. Thank you.
Okay. Mag Ochoa, your mic has been enabled. You should be able to speak. Hello, your mic has been enabled. Can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
I see that you've unmuted, but I can't hear. Anybody else?
Can you
I
hear
heard
me
something.
now?
Very faintly, very, very, very faintly.
Why don't we go to George? I know we've taken questions from Florence. Why don't we go to George?
George, your mic has been enabled. You should be able to speak as soon as you unmute yourself. Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, my question is about the MPRE. I noticed that all other states have lower scores than California. I wanted to find out why this is, and I've noticed that the California bar again is one of the hardest along around the United States. So I wanted to find out why everything is just very high in California. Thank you.
Are you referring to the score required to pass the
Yes, exactly.
to pass the bar exam?
Yes, the MPRE score, I think it's 86 in
Oh,
California. And then I think New York does have 85, but I know California has the highest score requirements.
Yeah, I'm actually, I am quite familiar with setting the cut score for the bar exam, but not the MPRE score. So I don't know, Audrey, if that's something you can speak to.
I don't know the history of that either, but I don't know if Natalie or Tara do.
I'm sorry, I was in the question log. I didn't hear the question.
the California MPRE cutoff being higher than other states?
Oh, the state will set it individually, and it depends on what each individual state does set. But as far as questions as to the specific exam, they should talk to the NCBE.
No, the question was, why is it so high in California? I think, George, just in the interest of time, we don't know on this Zoom, unfortunately, but it's a great question. So I'm not seeing a way to chat with you, Q&A with you exactly, but happy to have you. If you go onto the State Bar website, there's contact information provided here today for admissions. If you go onto the website, you can contact the executive director. Please do reach out. I will get you your answer. I'm curious now myself. It's not something that has been asked before in my 6 years at the bar. So great question, and we'll look into it.
And one final question. You know, persons with disability, I'm totally blind. And I've come to notice, well, you know, in the so many years I've been blind, that persons with disability, specifically blind persons, have difficulties, you know, with exams. And of course, I do know there are provisions. And with the pandemic and, you know, online exams, and that makes it even more cumbersome. Now, are there possible means, just as you guys stated, again, for persons with disability, specifically blind persons, to be able to scale through the California bar exams with all the hustles and bustles that we now have? And I believe it's going to be like, you know,
I'm not sure I fully understand the question, but Audrey or Natalie, can you speak to testing accommodations and what is available?
Right. So you would apply for testing accommodations associated with the exam that you are interested in sitting for, and we have, you know, a wide range of accommodations we can provide for someone with your visual impairment.
Yes, that I know is available. But what I was asking is, with the current issues, you know, with online, already having the fact that these persons would, you know, have to go miles, you know, extra miles to, you know, compete with the sighted counterparts. Are there any provisions? Like I understand from when you guys first started, you talked about revisions, you know, probably to the California bar and some exams. You made mention of certain demographics like Blacks and all that who were not probably represented. So my question specifically was, were there going to be some changes or modifications regards to persons who are blind as well?
No, nothing like that is being contemplated at this time.
Okay.
And with that, I think we're a little bit past 1:30, so I think we're gonna close out. I see a few more questions in the Q&A. Natalie, do you have the ability to kind of take these offline or answer them if we close out the Zoom in another way? I'm assuming
I'll be able to do so unless the questions are anonymous. If you have submitted an anonymous question and you haven't received a response, you may make an anonymous call to, for example, the Office of Admissions, or you may send a request through the general request of your portal, in which case your name will be identified. In particular, there are several moral character questions, and just a reminder that there is a person of the day each day who can answer moral character requests on an anonymous basis or identified as to your particular file.
All right, thank you. Thank you all for joining us, and look forward to welcoming you to the State Bar. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.